Hello and welcome. This is 1 in 20 D&D. I am Gregory, and this is the Session 24 recap for the VÄRLDEN Reach, which is a 5e D&D campaign run by the Bearded Bugbear. Now, I am one of the players, one of 5 players in this game, and for Session 24, my character was not involved. It was my anniversary weekend, and my wife and I spent some time celebrating, and yay, that was fun. So I was not able to make the session this time. However, I was able to, of course, listen to the recording, and so I want to, as always, share my thoughts and some of the points of interest in what happened in this session. So, here's the big stuff that happened. The gals started off waking up in the next morning, and the previous session we had spent, getting out of jail and doing some scouting, and dealing with some, some guilt, and it was, a pretty heavy episode, or 2 or 3 in a row, I guess. And this time, so Jermaine, as I shared in my Jermaine's interlude video, a special video I did this past week. So if you haven't checked that out, I'll include a link for it so you can find it easily. And hopefully you already watched that, and so Jermaine spent the whole day doing 2 things. One, he was trying to seek out his contacts that he may have in the city, any of the other bards that he might already know, and at the same time developing new contacts. And then the rest of the day, he basically, or the afternoon, evening, into the wee hours, he spent playing music and getting drunk. Pretty drunk. The ladies, while Jermaine was off doing his thing, they woke up in the morning, and Perdita, one cool thing was that since Jermaine wasn't around when Perdita woke up, she asked Marana if Marana wanted to do some training that morning, which was kind of fun. That was a great way to start, a little change in the routine, sort of maintaining the status quo, but there was still a little bit of a change up, which is kind of neat. The gals got up, woke up Lily and Pyre, and decided that they really wanted to go and check out the Black Ravens' hideout. Or sorry, I shouldn't call it their hideout. Sorry, their guild hall, their home base. And so that's what they did. Now, they were trying to be casual and sort of just kind of surreptitiously check it out from the outside, but very quickly they decided that they would just go ahead and poke around inside. So, Pyre and Marana went ahead and snuck into the house. Lily and Perdita kind of stayed outside as backup in case anything went wrong, and of course things went wrong. So, Pyre and Marana, they were kind of confronted by the chef, the cook. I guess let's call him the cook for the Black Ravens, and he told them, of course, nobody was around, and they're like, okay, thank you, and then they basically snuck away and went upstairs. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. Did they see the cook? Oh gosh, see, I need better notes for this. Someone encountered the cook, but that's not important. What's important is Marana and Pyre snuck upstairs. Upstairs, they found there was a room with at least 2 of the guards in the room talking about who knows what, 2 of the mercenaries. The other 2 mercenaries that apparently were still at the mercenary house were outside kind of clinging and clanging on armor and doing some kind of sparring or training or practice of some kind. And apparently, according to the cook, that was the only 4 people in the building. So they snuck past them and basically went straight back to some kind of master suite, for lack of a better. There's an office and a bedroom, and they didn't really find anything of interest in the officer's bedroom. They found some ledgers that were very not cryptic, just vague. They were very vague. They only had like a name and an amount or something like that, or a name, a date, and then an amount. That's pretty much it. There wasn't really like any information of like what the job was, what it entailed, where it was, that kind of thing. It was very, very sparse and very Spartan information. So Marana kind of was trying to get some information there, didn't really find anything. Pyre kind of got kind of lucky maybe, and found a secret passage to a small treasure chamber. When she went into the treasure chamber, she found 3 chests. Now, at some point along the line, the gals decided to invite Perdita and Lily inside in case there was any trouble. Of course, Perdita, being the large tin can of armor that she is, was less than sneaky and drew some attention, specifically the attention of the 2 mercenaries up in the room. However, she was quick on her feet, and impressively, she used her kind of fighter mage abilities, her her magical techniques, and used Misty Step, which I thought was pretty cool, and basically bamped behind the 2 guards as they came out of their bedroom, and then proceeded to like clock them over the head and knock them both unconscious. So that was kind of neat and very well handled. So by this time, Pyre had started going through the first chest. She checked to make sure it wasn't like a mimic or anything like that, and she didn't even bother to search for traps. She just kind of popped the chest. Luckily, the trap that she did encounter was kind of minor, so it was like a minor setback, little bit of damage, but she still got into the chest. And what she found in the chest, the first chest, I should say, was a big fat pile of gold and a bag of gems. Or I think there was a bag. At least there were gems. There were 10 gems in there, and like 100 gold piece gems, so pretty valuable. So she kind of pockets the gems, leaves the gold for a moment. She goes to the next chest. In the next chest, she found some, like, what we're calling relics. So these kind of various items, they have some either minor or major magical capacity or ability, but they're kind of like one-shot magic items, which are really cool and pretty useful. In the third chest, her heart was pretty much broken, because in the third chest, she found not only items of her own making, her own mark, she found items that had been taken from her village from other individuals in the village. And she pretty much broke down. She started crying and really had a difficult time with this. She then decided that, fuck these a-holes, and I'm taking all their shit. And actually, she had asked Lily to assist her with the third chest, which was kind of neat. Lily got to practice her skills. And so the 2 gals decided to just clean house of the ravens. Now, while that was happening, Marana was in the other room with Perdita, kind of continuing the search to look for any kind of evidence or information that might be useful. They really only found like 1 bit of information, which apparently we found out that this whole devastation to Pyre's tribe happened, or clan, whatever you want to call them. I guess she calls them her clan. This happened like 12 years ago. Now, Jermaine, as well as Gregory. So Gregory thought that this was pretty recent. I had assumed, because I never asked, I had assumed that this had happened fairly recently, and that she pretty quickly found her way up to the northern continent of Burnin, or I think the northern continent's called Burnin. Well, anyway, the kingdom of Burnin, where we are, but apparently that's not exactly the case. Apparently this happened like 12 years ago. So she found a name. And that is probably the most important thing we've found so far in regards to what happened to her stuff and possibly what happened to her people. So while again Marana and Perdita were sort of snooping around for some more information, Pyre basically took all the gold after she saw her items, like just face streaming in tears, totally upset, cleaned him out. The ladies then take off from the mercenary house and go back to the Bearded Bugbear Inn, where we had been staying. So they got out without incident and kind of reconvened back at the inn. Jermaine still wasn't back. This was, late in the afternoon, let's say, or early in the afternoon, what have you. Jermaine wasn't back. Actually, I think it was about lunchtime when they got back. So Pyre is devastated. She kind of goes to her room to kind of be by herself. The other gals, which I thought was kind of neat, are like, what should we do? What should we do? Do we need to check in on her? Should we, no, one of them, I believe, probably Lily. Somebody basically said, no, let's kind of let her have her peace and, give her a little bit of space so she can process. So that's essentially what they did. They got at some point a message from Crag, somewhere around lunchtime too. They got a message from Crag basically saying, hey, you all are needed in Cathal. So it was originally one of the places we wanted to go anyway. We knew that something has been happening between the elves and the dwarves. There's some tensions rising between the elves in Cathal and the dwarves in Calar Dumal, I think it's called, or Cair Dumal, or something like this. So there's something going on, and apparently the elves have requested our presence, or have requested assistance, or something like this. So Perdita told Crag we would head there first thing in the morning, and the group then kind of spent a little time relaxing and chilling out in the afternoon. Well, later that night, probably just after dinner or just after dark, Pyre told Lily she was going to go out. And by the way, would Lily like to come with her? Which she did. Probably a good idea that she did. Because Pyre decided, well, I don't know that decided is probably, I don't think this was a rational thing that happened. Pyre ended up going back to the guild house and, long story short, burning it to the freaking ground. Now, Lily was kind of like, this was a cool session for Lily because Tracy had Lily, I want to say Lily was the voice of reason in this episode, which was pretty damn cool. Lily was kind of like trying to, rationalize with Perdita, or sorry, not Perdita, with Pyre, like, I understand some of what you're going through, and I know, I'm an angry person. Anger is not always the best thing to do, and are you sure you want to do this? Because I'm not really going to stop you, but I just really want to make sure you know what you're doing. And by the way, let's make sure there's nobody in the house first. So Pyre kind of went in and was like yelling like fire and gave them a minute or two to get out, which she told the others, or at least she told Lily for sure, that, hey, she at least gave them a chance. They didn't give her people a chance. They just came in and killed the women, the children, the warriors, everyone. They just slaughtered everyone and took slaves of the rest. So, F these people. And I'm down with that. I think that was understandable. And probably Jermaine may have done something similar if he was in her situation. I'm kind of okay with what she did. Now, that being said, I'm pretty darn sure there's gonna be some repercussions from this, and we have another enemy that we created another enemy apparently that may come back to bite us in the butt sooner rather than later. But that remains to be seen. We'll have to wait and see what happens. So, one of the cool, fun things that happened in this session, and it was neat, when Pyre and Marana went into the guild house, Pyre decided to disguise herself. And what she did was she kind of disguised herself to basically look like Marana, maybe just like a slightly taller version of Marana or something like this, which was kind of, so they kind of look like maybe like sisters or something, which is kind of neat and interesting, I think. It certainly got a raised eyebrow from Marana. So that was kind of cool. And I think I'm trying to remember when they went back, if she disguised herself again. I believe she did. Yeah, she did for sure. So when they went back, she disguised herself just as a regular, like any old human kind of, and went in screaming and yelling pyre. Now when she was coming out, there were two of the mercenaries that maybe were sparring or whatever earlier in the day. They came running out and basically like, hey, what are you guys doing here? And they're like, oh, we saw the fire and we were trying to get away. And Pyre very successfully kind of bluffed them. And then Lily tried to bluff them as well, but slightly less successfully, actually really kind of flubbed it a little. But nevertheless, they kind of got away and left the scene of the crime. Now, here's my main concern. They went inside to check and make sure nobody was in there before burning down the house. Now, and Marana kind of when the women got back to the inn, they kind of sort of talked with Marana and Perdita about what just happened, or at least Lily told them what just happened, and essentially they decided that no, they did. I think all four of them had a chat because it wasn't like she was trying to hide what she did. She did it. She knew she did it, and she was okay with doing it. That's his pyre. I mean, now they kind of, again, Lily mostly being kind of somewhat of the voice of reason and trying to assuage her feelings or what have you, trying to be understanding and considerate. And then Marana was kind of like, Marana's big concern was like, what if someone was in there? What if a Lily or a Marana or an innocent person was in there? What if someone was deaf and didn't hear you yelling fire? Are you absolutely sure that there was nobody in there? Was the first question she asked. Are you sure there was no one in there? Now, here's Gregory's concern. Jermaine knows nothing about any of this because he was out drinking, right? But Gregory, the player's concern is this. Perdita knocked those two guards unconscious. Does anybody know that they got knocked unconscious? Because you could be knocked unconscious and be out for hours or days even. I mean, sometimes it's only minutes, I've been knocked unconscious, and sometimes it only a split second, 3 to 5 seconds or something like that. You black out or something. But it could also be minutes, hours, potentially days if it's a severe, concussion or what have you. So did they wake up? Were they out? Yelling fire doesn't make any damn difference if they're unconscious. So I'm a little concerned about that. But nevertheless, it happened. We got to deal with whatever the repercussions may or may not be. So Perdita basically told everyone, all right, look, we're going to leave an hour before dawn, so y'all better be ready. And then she waited for Jermaine to come back. I think that whole conversation happened upstairs in Pyre's room, Pyre and Lily's room. And then I think Marana basically went to bed at that point as well. Perdita waited for Jermaine. Jermaine eventually stumbled into the bar, or into the tavern, into the inn, to find his room, somewhat sobered after a walk in the brisk evening air. Probably still pretty damn sauced, but at least he wasn't maybe at that point, blubberingly sloshed and, tripping over himself or something. So Perdita told him, we're leaving at first light, to which he was pretty much like, yeah, of course we are, and went to bed or something like this. So that's kind of where we left things. And it's, I think now the whole group is going to be glad to get out of Handle. I don't think anyone was having a very good time in Handle to begin with. Getting arrested put a sour note on everything. Of course, we did get out, of course, but still not the best experience to have. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens next session. I'm really curious to see where this goes. There was a comment made by Marana to Lily. This was one of the moments that really captured me in this whole session. There were lots of really good stuff. Some of the details are a little fuzzy, so I'm not. Again, I wasn't playing in the games. I was just listening. So, it's a different kind of experience, obviously. So, the one thing that really stood out to me because this is how Jermaine feels. This is why it stood out to Gregory. So Marana said something at some point to Lily about like, "Are you sure you don't deserve to wear that armor?" And that is exactly how Jermaine feels. Like Marana's kind of trying to get Lily to come to see that Lily is really, really, really hard on herself. And she's a way better person than she gives herself credit for. And she's not perfect. No one's perfect. We all know this, right? We make mistakes. We have our flaws and failures and whatnot, shortcomings. However, by and large, Lily is a good person. She's heroic. She is courageous. And yeah, I was very pleased at how TBQ said those words to Marana, to Lily. How TBQ had Marana speak to Lily. It was perfectly Marana, and at the same time, it was really important, I think, for Lily to have someone else to say this to her. So hopefully, we'll get to see Lily wearing this beautiful new breastplate in the next session or two. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think that kind of wraps it up. I had a good time doing it. Again, I hope you got to see the quick, silly ridiculousness of what Jermaine is like when he's drunk, and I had fun doing it. It was just a fun exercise for kicks for me. So hopefully you dig that. In the meantime, thanks for stopping in. I hope that sort of summed up some of the stuff that happened in this session and kind of my reaction to what went down during the session. Jermaine is a little, or Gregory rather, not Jermaine. Gregory is a little bit nervous about what just happened. Jermaine is, he has no idea. So, off to Cathal in the morning. So, let's see where that goes. Thanks for stopping in. Tune in next week for another recap. See you at a table someday, and keep rolling 20s.